Getting settled. Welcome to our January 17th, 2024 business meeting for the Board of Douglas County Commissioners. There are paper copies of the agenda if any of you are new here near the door. And of course, the full packet is available on our website. First, as we go through our meeting, we'll have a consent agenda followed by general public comment. We welcome general public comment for addressing issues that are not on today's agenda, but otherwise related to county business. Given our limited time and the need to have an orderly and efficient meeting, we will apply certain rules regarding public comments. We will do our best to enforce these rules consistently and without regard to the point of view expressed by the speaker. First, each speaker will be limited to a total of 3 minutes of speaking time. However, we will accept public comment of any length in writing. Second, individual speakers may not donate unused time to other speakers. Third, all comments must address topics within the jurisdiction of the County Commission. And fourth, we will reserve the right to mute any speaker whose comments are threatening, aggressively hostile, or belligerent. Campaigning for public office during this time is also not allowed. Please give your full name and address for our meeting minutes and address your comments to the Commission. Please know that the comments received by the Commission during our meetings do not necessarily represent the views of Douglas County government, but that we value the input. We don't usually respond to general public comment on the spot, but if you'll leave your contact information with county staff, we will try and get specific questions answered. After general public comment, we'll move to our regular agenda, of which we have 2 items tonight. For each item, we will hear from staff or the applicant, followed by questions from commissioners, and then open that item for public comment relevant to that item. Once public comment is closed, we'll bring the item back to the Commission for further discussion and a vote. Lastly, if you just can't get enough of us, a recording of this meeting will be available on the county's YouTube page and website. So with that, we turn to our agenda, and we've just finished having our joint city-county meeting on the A Place for Everyone, which is the Housing and Homelessness Strategic Plan, joint for the city and county. We've had a good conversation there at City Hall. We have a consent agenda with 3 items. Are there any commissioners who would like to pull a consent agenda item? Are there any members of the public who'd like to pull an item from our consent agenda for further discussion? Anyone online, Sarah? Give us a minute. Okay. Okay, none there. For that, I'm sorry? Okay. I would consider a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Now we have general public comment. Do we have anyone in the audience here who would like to provide general public comment at this time? Come on up and state your name and Douglas County address.
Douglas County residents. Actually, it's pretty interesting. I'd like a copy of those instructions for the meeting, general public comment, and then I'd also like to know when the board met and voted on those new rules. Point of order. Public comment aside, I'd like to know when the vote happened. This is a point of order. No? The vote didn't happen, did it? That's an interesting change all of a sudden. But it's too little too late. Because I was going to come in here, I came in here last week and told them they need to change their rules. Told all 3 of you and told everybody else in here, you need to change your rules. And it's interesting, I threatened to come in here and extend my First Amendment as far as it would go, and those rules got changed. So I can say fuck now? Am I allowed to say shit? I'm not going to get thrown out for that? What if I said, fuck you, you liberal, what is it Justin said? Fuck you, you liberal motherfuckers. Is that okay now? He got arrested over that shit. And I know Patrick's just bored as hell with this, but the reality is the news that I'm breaking for the Lawrence Journal World so that you guys are aware, so that the whole county's aware, the lawsuit was filed yesterday. And thanks to your inaction over the course of 2 years and your obstinate ignorance of the US Constitution, you will be costing this county more money than would have been needed to save some people's lives this week. That's what happened. Look over there and see how long I got left. I got a little bit. That's what happened this week. You're each being sued in your individual capacities. along with Shannon Portillo. Now, this one just blows my mind. Shannon Portillo goes to ASU, and she gets the head of governmental affairs or something like that. That's her title down there. They appoint this person to that position with documented evidence. Actually, I'm sorry, it's not documented because you guys doctored the videos and pulled them down, didn't you? That's right. Y'all quit recording public comment and pulled the videos down off the web, claiming that it was YouTube. Unfortunately for you, I'm a YouTube creator, and I know what happens with YouTube, and your line about YouTube taking the videos down, Shannon Reed, was a straight up lie. And I can prove it with documents from my own account. So it's time for the lies to end. Their chickens are coming home to roost, and you guys are paying the bills. That's exactly what's happening. The citizens of Lawrence and Douglas County are going to be paying the bills for your screw-ups and your offenses and your hurt feelings over the things that Justin Spieth said. I'm not attached to him. You made us allies by your belligerent behavior. You made us allies by your belligerent behavior. And the newspapers around here need to start getting the narrative right, because it's your tax dollars too that are being spent. That's all I got tonight. And the video will be premiering in a couple minutes so that everybody can see it.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else here tonight who would like to give general public comment? Do we have anyone online? Okay. That will close general public comment, bring it back to our regular agenda. So the first is a review of the Rural Housing Incentive District for the City of Eudora. Do we have anyone from the City of Eudora to speak on this item? Thank you. Would you like to come up?
Everybody hear me okay? Okay, sorry. Good evening. I'm Zach Daniel. I'm with the City of Eudora. I'm the Assistant City Manager. I'm here to provide some details on the proposed RHID district that's working its way through the city processes right now. To start off with, no, I believe this body's familiar with the RHID mechanism, the tool. You've seen it through Baldwin City, so I won't spend too much time.
Actually, it would be good for you to go over the highlights of it. That was the first time the commission heard it, and it was a while
perfect.
back. So it'd be helpful for you to kind of give us some basics.
Yes, ma'am. So what RHID is, and the state actually recently changed the nomenclature around the mechanism where it used to be Rural Housing Incentive District, and it's now the Reinvestment Housing Incentive District. One of the reasons for that change is the tool was originally devised as a mechanism to assist mostly Western Kansas communities, really small populations, to encourage residential development in their areas. It was recently opened up to communities of 60,000 or less, and since that time, we've seen a lot more communities in this neck of the woods work its way through the process and use the tool as a way to encourage residential development. And the way that RHID works is that when a development goes through and works through the process that I'll kind of summarize where we're at right now with the Eudora project, once an RHID is established, you have the base amount of property taxes that are being paid for the parcel as it exists undeveloped. The incremental increases to to the property taxes associated with that district once development starts to occur are diverted back from, they don't go to the regular tax rolls, they're diverted back into the public improvements for that geographical area within the district. So your streets, your utilities, all the public improvements that go towards servicing a neighborhood, the incremental increases in property taxes are diverted back into those districts. Obviously both the city, the county, and the school district are those taxing entities that are affected, which is why the county and the school district are provided notice and have some a period after the public hearing is scheduled to consider any adverse effects that might be felt by the county or the school district. But we'll get into that as I kind of contextualize where we're at in the process. So any questions from the body or staff at this point related to that?
Yes. Sorry. So when you say it's the tax increment, right? So there's county and city and school district taxes. All of the taxes that are being set aside are going to municipal improvements, or do they go to county improvements?
They go to the improvements, the public improvements located within the designated district of the RHID. So that would be within, in this case, the proposed district is in the city of Eudora, so the streets, the utilities, the public improvements associated with that district, those incremental increases in the property taxes would be used to pay for those improvements.
And the project that we're talking about, are those municipal? So when you say things like streets and gutters and water and things like that, those are city improvements, not county improvements, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, so that's kind of the broad overview of the RHID tool as it's laid out through the state. And the state has a pretty rigid recipe that communities need to follow if this is a mechanism they want to consider using. The first step in that is for the city, the community in question, to complete a housing needs analysis, which the city of Eudora completed and reviewed and adopted in late October. So what that document affirms is that they're, looking at the metrics that we had at our disposal, which included our internal data as well as some MLS data from housing sales from in the region. But essentially what it determines is that A, there is a housing shortage currently in the city of Eudora. B, we expect that housing shortage to continue. C, that the lack of housing development and residential development is a substantial deterrent to the economic development and well-being of the community. And then D, that some level of public participation is going to be required in order to encourage residential development within the city. So those are the findings of the housing needs analysis. We sent a copy of that to the county staff. We can provide that as well if you want some additional review of that, but that was completed back in October. After the housing needs analysis is completed, that document, along with the accompanying resolution, is sent to the state, the Secretary of Commerce. At that point, the state reviews the HNA and its findings and provides notification that we agree with these findings and you are now free to explore RHID as a mechanism, which we received in early November from the state saying that they received it, they reviewed the findings and agree with our findings and allow us to continue to pursue it as a tool for the city. The next step in that process is which is where we're at now, is to consider the creation of a reinvestment housing incentive district within the city of Eudora. In this case, the district that we're talking about is in our Shadow Ridge neighborhood. If you're familiar where the Eudora High School is, it's just a little bit southwest of where the Eudora High School is located right now, is where this neighborhood would be. It's part of an existing subdivision. In addition to that, as recently annexed area into the city. The next step in the process is the public hearing that has been noticed. That will take place at our regular city commission meeting on Monday, January 22nd, which the county received notice of and the school district received notice of. At that point, what the city is going to be considering is the proposed development plan and the proposed development agreement worked out between city staff and the developers associated with this project to come to terms with that. Now, assuming that we have come to terms on both of those two documents, the next step is to adopt an ordinance that would formally establish the district. At that point, that's where that kind of protest petition that I mentioned really kicks off for both the school district and the county. So if the school district or the county find that there may be adverse effects due to the creation of the RHID, they have a period of 30 days to review that and pass a resolution to that effect, which essentially halts the project at that point. So all that the city has done right now, the only formal action that we've taken related to this is to adopt the housing needs analysis and the findings that I noted, those 4 findings in there, receive the confirmation from the state and the go-ahead to continue to move forward in exploring this as a mechanism, and the call for the public hearing, which is occurring on the 22nd. But that's where we're at right now. After we have a chance to discuss the development agreement and the development plan with our city commission at that public meeting, and that becomes a public document, and I'm more than willing to share and discuss some of the details included in that with this body or whoever else may be interested in hearing about it.
Commissioners, do you have questions?
So we won't know the time frame of the agreement, right, until after the city has a chance to look at the.
That's correct.
Okay.
But the mechanism of the RHID has a maximum time frame for the existence of the district of up to 25 years.
Okay.
So it can't exist any longer than that.
So within that 30 days of the time period of protest petition for the county and the school district, will there be additional information that comes back to us in any formal way that we would have a chance to review that?
Whatever information after that public hearing, and then once those documents are public documents that you want to see, please just reach out. We can provide that, and I can just make a note right now that once the development agreement is in place and ready to go, that we can provide that information to your staff.
If you want to provide that, that's great.
Okay.
I also wouldn't mind having a copy of the housing needs analysis. It wasn't in our packet for this time, and I'm just out of a general curiosity for the needs of Eudora.
Yeah, we can get that sent over.
Other questions?
I want to clarify the timeline. So after the 22nd meeting, you'll send the development proposal to Sarah, and Sarah, you can include it in our memo. The only reason I'm bringing this up is we've had similar types of things that were municipal that we could protest that didn't get to us in time. So I want to make sure we're clear on the timeline so that we have clear communication between the two.
Yeah, once that document's out of its draft form and in that public-facing version that's been adopted and reviewed by my body, then I don't mind sharing that with your staff.
What is our timeline, though? So if
At this
if you
point,
give it to us on the 22nd, how long do they have to decide?
After the 22nd, that's when that 30-day period kicks
Okay.
in.
Okay, thank you.
Will there be any additional analysis on the impacts to school board and county funding of the RHID?
The terms of the development agreement will lay out the amount of the increment that would be diverted back into the district, I think it's going to answer those questions as far as what is the economic opportunity cost that's the county and the school district are facing.
But I'm not unless you want us to prepare additional information on that, I don't normally prepare additional information on that. And I would need clarity on what it is that you'd like to see.
I'm happy to see what their development, what is passed by your body, let it come to us, and then if I have questions, we can follow up with Eudora.
Do you want it formally placed on the agenda for review?
I don't need it personally. I don't want it on the agenda. What I just included in the memo so that we have, that we received that and had a chance to, if then we decide to put it on the agenda, I think we certainly can.
Yeah. I would just say, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to just tell us what amount of property tax would be
Is
moved
included
back.
in the, yes.
Yes, it's not going to tell us about our expenses. I just want to make sure the commission's clear on that. So in terms of an economic analysis, it's just talking about which property tax dollars are diverted.
I think we're all interested in seeing that plan come to us just in the memo, and then if we flag it for additional questions, we can move it forward for a future agenda.
Great.
Any further questions from commissioners? Okay, with that, we'll open this item up for public comment. Is there anyone here with us in person who would like to make public comment on this item? Is there anyone online? All right, with that, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for additional conversations or motions.
I don't think we need to do a motion on
You
this
don't need a
one.
motion unless you want to initiate a protest period.
Any interest in that?
Not at this time.
We will consider this information received, and thank you for following up with us in the future with the additional information for our memo.
Perfect, yeah, I'll work with staff and get you whatever information that you need. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And that brings us to our regular agenda item 3.2, which is a contract amendment authorizing Hernley Associates to perform Phase 2 design and documentation services for the above-ground masonry restoration on our historic courthouse. So, Jay.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jez Immershed, Director of Capital Projects. With us tonight is Stan Hernley, owner of Hernley Associates, Architects. What you have before you is an amendment to the original contract that was written for the waterproofing project. They both involve stone masonry, and so it's logical that it is logical that we are using that original contract and just amending it to move forward with above-grade stone masonry restoration. Hernley Associates was involved with the initial phase of this above-grade stone masonry that was performed roughly in 2010. We were able to accomplish roughly half of the west elevation, and so this would just be a continuation of that effort on around the rest of the building.
Too close?
Sorry about that. Included here is a quick anticipated design and construction schedule in your packet. And also, I think it's important to note that we, the county, are tracking both the below-grade waterproofing masonry, waterproofing and masonry restoration, and the above-grade in one CIP fund. We do believe we are within striking distance of accomplishing the entire rest of the building, which we're very hopeful for. If you look out front at the west elevation and you look at the portion that was complete now almost 13 years ago, it still looks night and day better than the original stone that really hasn't been touched. And so excited to kind of keep this moving as we wrap up the below grade waterproofing, which we anticipate end of the first quarter of next year, maybe beginning. Mother Nature is not cooperating with us right now in that regard. And so we may be moving that back from March a little bit. We'll have to see as we progress. But with that, myself or Stan would stand for any questions you have.
Thank you, Jay. Do we have any questions, commissioners?
So a couple of quick questions. One, I'm assuming that your recommendation to extend the contract or amend the contract means you're very happy with Hernley's work to date, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And, you know, is there a reason that we decided to just amend the current contract rather than put it out for bid? And yeah, I'm just interested in that.
There were a couple of thoughts that went into that. Is one, yes, we're receiving good service on the below grade waterproofing project. But two, Hernley was involved in the original effort in 2010, and so they have a lot of background information on the project. In all its phases, they have access to those original documents. We kind of had have a head start staying with this group. And so everything that I heard from that original effort back in 2010 was very good. I can't say I was involved with it, but those are really the reasons that we chose to just amend this contract and try and include additional scope in it. So,
If I could add a third reason, it is to keep this project moving. I would really like us to be as less disruptive to the courthouse as possible. So I didn't want to have us lay grass seed and sod and plantings and then 6 months later we put scaffolding and cranes and we continue the work. So by not doing an additional competitive selection process for design, which we did do when we did phase one of this project, amending the contract allows us to continue moving at a reasonable pace to get this work done. And I do want to add that while it's an amendment, this is really the first time this project the commissioners are voting on this phase of the project. You saw it in your CIP last year, but this is really your first vote for the above ground work. And then hopefully soon will come, once the design work is done, the commission, Jay and Stan will come back to you with total project budget estimates for that remainder of that work. We think we're on track, but you'll approve a total project budget again. Or for the second project.
I have a question. There were listed 3 items in our report here for the Heritage, it just went away, Heritage Trust Fund grant and the 2 tax credits. Can you talk to about, it looks like it's close to about $900,000 of funding that is available to help offset some of this project. Can you talk about those?
Absolutely. The below grade waterproofing project realizes 2 of those. One is the Heritage Trust Fund. We received a grant, I believe it was $95,000. And then because we're working on a building that's on the Register of Historic Places, we're able to access tax credits to offset costs that the county would spend on the project. And that value for the below grade waterproofing was estimated at $135,000. There were a number of pieces on that project that don't qualify. SHPO doesn't, things that we do out on the site don't necessarily qualify. We must be doing it to the building itself, and there's some involved pieces there, but you'll notice then on the above grade masonry, that estimate is quite a bit more. That's because that's restoring all the historic stone. Almost all of that project will qualify, and so we believe we will be able to offset revenue, realize offsetting revenues of around that $740,000. So, which is great.
Does masonry work also include like the stairs of various entries we have?
It
Exterior
will.
stairs?
Actually, the north stairs are part of the masonry below-grade waterproofing project, and they've kind of been deconstructed at this point. So those will be restored as part of the below-grade waterproofing. Any other stairs around, I don't know that we'll have significant amount of work on stairways as part of the above-grade masonry. Some of that work was done along the east side of the project when the ADA ramp was installed in, I think it was the 70s. And so we won't even be along that portion of the building. So limited amount of stair work, but yes.
Thank you. Any further questions at the moment? Okay, with that, we will open this item up for public comment. Is there any members of the public who would like to comment on this item? And anyone online? Okay, with that, we will close public comment and bring it back to the commissioners for any further discussion or motion.
Have any other comments, but looks like we're ready for a motion. This is Commissioner Reed. I move to, let me make sure I'm reading the right paragraph. I move to authorize the county administrator to execute the attached contract amendment with Hernley Associates Incorporated to perform the specified design and documentation work associated with Phase 2 services in an amount equal to 7.5% of the cost of work for the historic Douglas County Courthouse above grade stone masonry restoration project.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. And that closes our regular agenda and brings us to appointments. Do we have any appointments to make this evening?
Yes, I do, Commissioners.
All right.
So, an update on Grant Township. You're aware that a longtime Grant Township trustee, John Naramore, recently resigned at the end of last year, leaving a year of his unexpired term available. I had a series of conversations with many people, including the other township board members, other residents, about potential interest in that position. And as it turns out, for continuity's sake, we're actually going to make two appointments. I'm going to request to make two appointments tonight. One is for Paulette Schwartz, who has been the treasurer for Grant Township and is prepared and ready and knowledgeable enough to step into the trustee role and really maintain continuity, which I think is important with some things they have in progress. And she's done such a wonderful job at establishing some really basic foundational practices for their fiduciary processes. And as treasurer in her last, well, I think she's been in place for almost 2 years now, and was able to identify an interested resident with the experience to step into that role and keep things going. So with that, I have two motions, and I guess we'll just take it one at a time. One is to, that I'd like to appoint Paulette Schwartz to the Grant Township trustee position.
Second.
All right, we have an appointment and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for finding that.
And sorry, I should have said her name in my original context. The new treasurer that I'd like to appoint is Emily Blodgett Panos, and she will serve the unexpired term. But both of those terms will expire at the end of this year. It is an election cycle, so we'll see if they continue to stay in those seats or not. But I'm happy to make their board whole.
All right, could you repeat the name?
It's Emily, and I should probably double check the pronunciation, but Emily Blodgett, which is Blodgett -Panos, Panos. And I'll make sure, I think that I've passed that contact information along to staff, but Sarah, let me know if any of that's missing.
I would gladly second that motion.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Any other appointments for this evening? Commissioners? No? With that, that'll put us to Commissioner and/or Administrative Miscellaneous, and we'll start with Sarah's memo.
Thanks, Commissioners. You have an updated memo in the packet. I did want to point out that I think we will not have a work session next week. Jill and I have talked about it, and I want to give you, she's worked up a document on sort of a supportive housing recap. I will include it in next week's packet, probably my memo for next week, or we may put it on the agenda depending on when we take a look at it. And then if the commission wants more time on it or something more in depth, we can go from there. Because really, I was just hoping we could kind of summarize some of our information on supportive housing. So we will not have a 4 o'clock meeting next week. And commissioners, that's all I have.
And on behalf of my fellow commissioners, I want to extend a great thank you to Jill for taking such a leadership role with our joint city-county meeting today. It was a lot of great stakeholders, but certainly a lot of information to pull together, and an important piece for the community to start hearing us talk about, and to have that vocabulary and have that understanding in the community also. So thank you for all of the years of work that have gone into getting us to this point. Do we have any other miscellaneous from fellow commissioners? No? With that, we are adjourned.